So David, I hear that Ireland is finally going to have an election?
It would appear so.
I understand that things have been rather messy in Irish politics over the last while. What was it that finally caused it to get to this point?
Well, Ireland, under the leadership of Fianna Fáil and Taoiseach Brian Cowen, has been suffering a crippling economic recession for the last few years.
And that caused the government to fail?
No. After failing to handle the crisis, the Irish government were forced to accept an EU IMF bailout package late last year, simply to avoid going bankrupt.
I see. And that caused the government to fall?
No. With the support of the Green Party under John Gormley, the government continued to exist, pledging to call an election, only after passing several key pieces of financial legislation that included tenants already in effect.
Right. And so, having done that, they have called an election?
No. On the 12th of January, it came to light that Brian Cowen may have had some inappropriate personal contact with the boss of one of Ireland's failing banks, that the state bailed out at a later date.
Interesting. So, this apparent scandal forced him to go?
No. Cowen insisted he had done nothing wrong, and pledged to continue in his position. Technically speaking, he had done nothing more than play a game of golf and have dinner with the bank boss concerned, and no suggestions of what was discussed at those events could be proven. But this is a very unpopular government, and Cowen was forced to address the issue.
So, how did we go from there to an election?
Cowen had to seek the opinions of his own party members, while opposition groups prepared to table no-confidence motions in the government.
And those motions succeeded?
They were never tabled. Some members of Fianna Fáil began to call on their leader to resign.
And he did?
No. On the 16th he held a press conference to confirm he was staying, but placed a confidence vote in himself before the Fianna Fáil party membership. Micheál Martin, one of his ministers, publicly led the opposition. No other minister, such as Brian Lenihan of Finance, backed Martin up, despite private claims that he was covertly working against Cowen in secret, and had been for months.
So, did Martin succeed in ousting Cowen with this vote?
No, Cowen won the vote on the 18th.
I see. So the matter was settled.
It seemed like it, until 6 ministers all resigned in the following 24 hours.
6? That seems like a lot.
It was. But it still wasn't enough to convince Cowen to go.
What?
Cowen attempted to fill the positions with new faces, but his coalition partners, the Greens, blocked the move, considering it a stunt to boost the public awareness of some Fianna Fáil members before an election. The resulting parliamentary exchanges were bitter, with the House being suspended on several occasions for unruly conduct of its membership.
And I thought Joe Wilson was bad. So, the Greens pulled out of government then?
No. Cowen decided to let people already in ministerial positions fill the absent ones. Then announced that an election would take place on March the 11th. This was on the 20th of January.
So the issue was sorted then?
Not quite. Fianna Fáil and the Greens, never the best of friends, had suffered a great fracture, and both sides continued to consider their positions. All this time, members of Fianna Fáil continued to press Cowen to resign as leader of the party.
And he did so?
Yes, on the 22nd of January.
So, that caused an election?
No. Cowen only resigned as leader of Fianna Fáil, but retained the position of Taoiseach.
What? Fianna Fáil was happy with him being the leader of the country, but not leader of the party?
That's nothing. Cowen became Taoiseach only after the resignation of his predecessor Bertie Ahern, and as such has never even faced a popular election in the position.
Jesus Christ. So how did we get from there to an election?
Since Fianna Fáil claimed that the only reason they were still there was to pass the finance bill, the opposition offered to let it go into law unopposed if an election was called immediately after. Otherwise, they would put a no-confidence motion in the government on the table.
But didn't the government have the numbers in the Dáil to survive such a motion?
It did, until the Greens pulled out of the government on the 23rd, resigning their 2 ministerial positions, leaving the cabinet only one resignation away from being unconstitutional.
So, the game was up then? With no majority, the government had to fold, right?
No. The Greens publicly left government, but have said they would help pass the finance bill anyway.
What? How is that leaving government if they pledge to pass the government legislation?
The Greens are facing a wipeout in the next election, so they have pulled out of government in a late attempt to save their own skins. Anyway, the previously up-in-arms main opposition parties are doing the exact same thing, after opposing the legislation every day for the last 2 months.
What a bunch of assholes. So, what now?
Fianna Fáil is in the middle of a leadership battle with 4 people, Brian Lenihan, Micheál Martin, Mary Hanafin and Eamon O'Quivel vying to be the next leader of the party. The government must choose between bowing to the opposition wishes and calling the election this coming Friday when the finance bill passes, or face a no confidence vote it will most likely lose. Either way, it would appear that the government cannot last beyond the end of this week.
So, that will mean an election?
Yes.
No offense, but your country's political system is messed up. Your government is the most unpopular in your nation's history, its leader is going, then staying, then half gone, your opposition parties can't make up their minds what to do in response, the cabinet is falling apart, and the junior partner in the coalition keeps the government going before claiming to have brought it down at the last minute. And all of this is to pass a piece of legislation, tenets of which have been in effect for over a month?
That's Irish politics for you.
It doesn't seem right.
That's nothing. Let me tell you about a guy named Charles Hoey,